Welcome to Mortal Adventures. This is Griffin, and we are actually going to look at all of my variations of Branch. I have 5 different pets that I have named Branch by now. I have 2 wolves, 2 bears, and my long-coveted Razorback, which is also named RazorBranch. So I told you guys in my last video that I was going to make a best effort to try and compare the animals, and so I did. I decided the best way to try and set up a test to see which animals do the most damage would be if I had them at the same level and was able to test them against the training dummies, because the training dummies don't have variations as far as I know. But maybe I actually don't know, because remember, I am a noob at this game and I'm learning a lot, so I did always go after the same training dummy with each animal, and I always put them at the same marker. It's like a stick in the ground that has a blue paint on it. I'm not even sure what they're for, but because it doesn't change where its location is, I tried to always line up the animals with that, and then I used the stopwatch on my phone and pressed the attack button at the exact same time that I started my stopwatch, and I tested each animal for 30 seconds, and I tested each animal 3 times. So then I would average out all of the damage to see how much they hit, or how much damage they do per hit and how many hits they get. So starting out, we started with my level 23 wolf. It had 500 loyalty and it had 3 sessions of attacks. The first session was exactly 29.98 seconds. This is kind of important because I'm a human being, and my ability to stop a stopwatch at exactly 30 seconds is just, I mean, I'm human. Come on. So, the first attack, it did 11 attacks in that 30-ish seconds. It did 70 damage total, and each, the average of each of those attacks was 6.36. The second one was 29.96 seconds, 11 attacks, 70 damage, 6.36 again. Then the third attack was 29.82, which is technically less time by like 12 seconds, and or 14 seconds, sorry. And it had 12 attacks, 69 damage total, and with a actually, I can't tell if it's a 69 or a 61. Actually, I think it's a 61 damage total, and so each attack was worth 5.58 damage. So then I tested out my lowest level bear. My lowest level bear was level 23, so that worked out really well. It had 100 loyalty, and its first attack was 29.83 seconds long. It did 11 attacks. It had 182 damage total with 15.17 as its average of all the damage. Then its second attempt was 30.03. It only had 9 attacks, 148 damage total, and so each attack averaged 16.4 damage. Then the third time, it was 30.06, which is a little bit over 30 seconds, so it did have a little extra time, and it got 11 attacks, which it probably would have been 10 had I not been so slow. And on that one, it had 182 damage total, with 16.55 being the average hit. So then I put the Razorback, it right in the center, so it's next. At the time, it was level 27, but it leveled up to level 28, and it had 900 loyalty. So its first attempt was 29.91 seconds. It had 13 attacks, 66 damage total, with an average damage per hit of 5.08. Then the second attempt was 30.6, so it was a little bit over. It was the same amount of time that the bear had in its last attempt. So 30 seconds and 6 milliseconds. 15 attacks, 82 damage, with an average hit, or average per hit, of 5.46, so 5.46 damage. Then the third attempt was 29.89, so a little bit less than most of the other ones, and it only did 13 attacks, 74 damage total, and the average per hit was 5.69. So it averages about 5.5 per hit. So then I got out my big bear, which was level 32. It had max loyalty, 1,000 loyalty, and it had, on the first attempt, 29.9 seconds. It did 10 attacks, 170 damage total, with 17 being the average per hit. So it hits harder but less often. Then the second attempt, I did let this one go quite a bit. This one was 30.28 seconds, so that was my bad. It did get 10 attacks again. And this one I had 169 damage, and it averaged 16.9 damage per hit. And then the third attempt, it was 29.82 seconds, so a little bit less. It had 10 attacks, 192 damage, and 19.2 damage per hit on average. So then lastly, I had my big dog, level 59, highest level animal I have right now, and it has 900 loyalty. So its first attempt was in 29.99 seconds. It had 11 attacks, 91 damage total, for an average of 8.27 damage per hit. Then the second attempt was 30.12 seconds, 11 attacks, 162 damage total, with 9.27 being the averaged damage per hit. Then the next and very last attempt was 29.85 seconds, 11 attacks, 105 damage total, with 9.55 damage per hit. Oh, actually, this is my bad handwriting. The one before this was 102 damage per hit, not 162. I couldn't read my own handwriting. So if we want to go back and kind of rank these on how much damage they do per hit, the bear wins by far. The smaller bear hits a little bit more often, but it has weaker hits, and it averages at like 16 damage per hit. The bigger bear averages like 17.5 damage per hit, but it only gets 10 attacks, so just maybe potentially one attack less per 30 seconds. So it is by far the hardest hitting animal, but it is the slowest. And then the next hardest hitting is the wolves, and they average about 8 for the largest dog. Actually, I guess it's 9 for the largest dog. And then for the smaller dog, it's about 6 per attack. But they attack more often in a 30-second period, which is what I figured maybe it might take to kill a bandit. You'll actually get 2 more hits in with a dog. So if you're PvPing and you're looking to maybe stop a mage from casting or something of that nature, and I don't know yet, obviously, because I haven't played that yet, but I imagine that a faster hitting animal might be more useful. And that brings us to the Razorback. The Razorback hits about 13.5 times per 30 seconds, and it might actually be closer to 14 on average. If I had more time and I could go through and test this more, I suspect it would be closer to 14, which is 4 more times than the bear, which is like a 40% increase. And you can tell too, like it's very obvious that the pig does attack faster. However, it is about 5.5 damage per hit, which is so much smaller than the bear. Like the bear with its if we say maybe the average between the 23 level bear and the 32 level bear, because the pig was right between that, we're probably looking at like 17. So the bears hit for 17 every time they swipe, but the pigs only go for about 5.5 every time they hit. So some other really cool things about the bear that we noticed is that you can kind of clip through the bear a little bit. So if you're working with a group and you're in the dungeons and it's just smaller quarters, the bear is lower to the ground, so you don't hit it with your weapon as often, which is a problem. And also you can kind of clip through it a little bit, which makes it much easier for you to get around it in order to attack other bandits or whatever's coming at you. Both the pig and the dogs do not clip as well. Like, you do not clip through them. The pig is actually a brick wall. It is almost impossible to use in the dungeons because it is so large. It blocks your ability to see the NPC that's being attacked. The mob that's being attacked is swallowed up by the body of the pig, so you can't tell when they're going to hit you which direction they're coming from. If it's going to be a high hit, if they're hitting from the left or the right, the pig blocks all of that. It's also extremely loud, which I love. I mean, I love that characteristic of it, but it is a very loud animal. And it's a little bit, because it's always, since it's so fast, it's very clingy. So if you're trying to back up, a lot of times you end up backing up into it. So it's a really cool animal. Definitely a beautiful animal. But for dungeons, I don't suggest it. Maybe in PvP. I haven't tried it. We were going to duel and see how well it is at dueling. However, Urso does not really do magic, and I don't really do magic, so we don't really have a way to test it on a mage, but still kind of useful. We'll see how good it is in combat. So anywho, I hope you guys found this useful, and if you did, give me a like, I suppose, and if you didn't, let me know what you'd like to see. Maybe you have some suggestions and I'd love to hear them. So until then, stay stout, my friends.